Okay, okay. I'll just request everyone to put on mute.
कौन है वो?
Okay, so let's start with the basics first. As if we are going, if we are here to learn onto the manual testing, I just want to give you a brief why testing is so popular and why manual testing is can be a good starting point. People here maybe from the different background. They're not right now discussing on everyone's background what they are up to, but assuming that everyone is looking to understand and to learn on the testing skill, and then gradually they want to use it into their profile for some jobs or maybe some for other work. If they're already doing job maybe in their day-to-day work, they want to use that knowledge and experience and the learnings from this course that they're going to get at the end of the course, right? So why testing? Because testing is having a high scope of getting a job. Reason being that if you are working in any of the organization, in any of the organization where you are looking to have or you are looking to work in any of the organization, there should be an QA department or the quality department where the people would be required, right? And if there is any engineering is happening anywhere, I'm not talking about the software IT industry only. If there is any engineering is happening in any of the other industry as well, then in that there would be a quality department and there will be a need of testing would be there. So understand the testing as an overall concept is a very good starting point, and it is very high demanding job because everywhere and every day we see many of the manufacturing is happening or the engineering is happening, and if something is building or something is developing, then that needs to be tested before it's going to be used by the end user of that product, of that engineering product or of that development thing. So anything which is being developed is going to be used by the end consumers or the end users in any form. Maybe it be software or non-software thing, or it is IT or non-IT thing in any industry as well as in the IT industry. So definitely, if something is building, then it need to be tested. And to test those things, we need a team. We need a quality assurance team who can test that particular product. Now it depends upon the skills. If you are working into the IT industry, then definitely you are going to test the software applications or the softwares or the hardwares. If you are working in if you have the knowledge of any other domain, for example the manufacturing, for example the finance or any and banking, any other domain, there would be a different measures of the working into the QA department. So we are not going to talk about the other domains. We are going to talk about the other domain, which is the IT and the software domain, where we are going to work and as a quality engineers in the IT department, where we're gonna test the mobile applications, web applications, or any of the softwares applications that we're going to use the test. Okay, so that is why the high scope of getting a job. No technology dependency. Here we are talking about the manual testing. So in manual testing, you need not to have a very high knowledge of the coding or the programming languages, because you are not the one who is going to build the application. There are developers who are going to write the code, write the logics for the particular product or the feature that needs to be built. Here you are going to test and measure the quality of that developed product. So that is why the technology dependency is I would not say no technology dependency, but there would be very less technology dependency in terms of writing the code. You should at least have the knowledge of the technologies which are there in the industry, just to test the application clearly and understand the logics with in the application. So you should at least still have should have the knowledge of database, should have the knowledge of how the logics are being implemented into the code. But yes, when in terms of writing or coding, actually you should not required needed to have any of the technology knowledge. So that is why the less technology dependency is there. We will come to these questions later, Antariksh, but if you have asked, the AI is the talk in these days a lot because of other things also like Chat GPT and all. But nobody is going to take nobody's job. The reason is the human are the most intelligent mind and the most operative minds there in the industry. And if you are going to automate anything, if you are going to automate, you will see that there would be a manual intervention required before going for the automation or even after going for the automation. Manual check needs to be there for each and everything, whether it is going for to automate as well. And generally, automation, the automation always happens in the, if I talk about the software industry, the or the software testing industry, the automation happens onto the portion of the application which is repeatedly happening in the application. And there the automation is very useful. For example, you need to do the login into a certain application, you need to create an account or do the login. So every time you are testing the application, you will not do manually login into the application. So there they write the automation script where or with the help of AI, you can write some of the commands. They can automatically check that login feature rather than you log in manually every time. So the automation we generally write where the things are happening repeatedly. That is where the automation required. So manual testing is going to be there always, because after the manual testing only the automation thing happens. So before that a certain amount of manual testing is always there. So that is why in current industry also, whenever they look for the automation testing job aspirants as well, they they ask the manual testing thing. So there should be at least 30%, 40% of manual testing knowledge, and the experience would be there. And people used to have the manual experience, manual testing experience knowledge. So manual testing is always going to be there, and AI is not going to take the manual testing job because AI cannot entirely replace it. Yeah, maybe it can help you as a tool to use it into the manual testing. So what happens if, for example, there are many tools which were not there earlier, but it doesn't mean that manual testing jobs are going to be reduced or are reducing, because these tools are empowering more the jobs to perform in a better way to give the quality results. So that is why they are going to do. If you have the good knowledge and if you are have the good experience, then you are going to be there and you are going to leverage the advantage of these AI tools or any other tools which is there in the industry or developing in the industry to perform better, to produce the better quality. So that is the work of AI which is going to happen or going to utilize in the coming years. Okay, I hope I answered your question. Okay, thank you. Okay, so there were 2 points: high scope of getting a job because quality department is always going to be there and it is there in any kind of industry. And then no technology dependency when we talk about our IT or the software industry. The technology dependency, being a manual tester, is very less. You only need to understand the logics and the database and the connections which is happen at the various data point in the software application. You are not the one who is going to write the code for the feature or for the application. So that is why the working knowledge of the coding is not required. So that is why it is less dependent. Then, as I said, that technology testing is never ending thing, because if in any place anything is developing, then that needs to be tested before going into the market or before even going to the customer for their test. So the testing has indefinite scope, and it is going to be there for last. So that is why the testing can be a good uh, point to start with in any of the industry. Sorry. Now, who can perform testing? So as I said, any person who is having the basic understanding and good communication and knowledge of the digital things can perform the testing. So you only need to know what is testing, why the testing is required, and how we do the testing. Then anyone can do the testing, manual testing job, at least, because you just need to understand the principles, the processes, the models and the formats and the documents which we need to create, follow the processes that we need to follow while doing the manual testing, and then you're good to go into this industry. How far is manual testing applicable in the industry than the automation testing? So as I said, the first step is always to do the manual testing for a project, for a new project, or for any of the existing project. So once you've done a certain amount of manual testing, then only the project or that particular project is eligible or the right eligible for the automation testing. Before doing any kind of testing, you can directly cannot put them into automation testing. Or if we put at onto the automation testing, we only perform a certain basic script in the starting to check whether there is the blocker thing is available in the application or not. So for example, whenever a project come to test, we do run one or two automation script where we ask where we check for the basic blockage into the application whether it is good to go, that we call as an smoke test. So we only perform a kind of smoke test that can be performed with the automation script, and that can perform manually also. Generally people still do prefer to do that manually, because in a very quick go we just check the quality or the health of that application which is coming for the testing, and we try to analyze whether it is good to test further or not. So that is the thing which is generally we do manually only. And if the people have written the automation script, they can do the automation. After that, there are certain parts of the processes where the manual test cases are being executed first, because test cases and the test scripts are written manually for entire application apart from the automation. And on once the manual test cases are written, that they are being executed, after that or in parallel to that, automation scripts are being created for that test cases that we have written manually. So manual testing cannot be replaced, manual testing is there. And once a certain amount of manual testing is done onto the application, then those test cases are automated into the automation script, then the automation testing is performed. And again, as I said, automation testing generally advantage or advised to perform onto that portion of the application which is regularly happening. For example, there is a payment process in any of the application, and the payment is there into 9 or 10 places. So that process can be written for the automation scripts can be written for that place, that feature, because it is going to be performed in a similar way and the same fashion at each and every place. So rather than checking every time, rather than executing my test cases every time manually, after doing it once or twice, we can write the automation script for that part, and then it automatically check every time, so that we can focus on to the other area. We can manually test that, and then the automation scripts can take care of the that part of feature. So that is how the mix of automation and the manual is a good combination, is a best combination in the industry. Okay, thank you. Now, what is required to get a job? So why I link everything is to job, because definitely when you are learning something, you're going to use that skill in any manner. So what is required for this particular skill to learn? First of all, I would say a good communication is very important for especially for the quality any kind of quality job. The communication is very important, because communication is the key to learn, to understand, and to execute, and to communicate. And in testing, software testing, you do all these four things. First of all, you learn from the customer what are their requirement, or as a QA person or as a testing person, you learn from the business team that what are the requirement, what are the customer requirement. So when you learn, then you try to understand them, because understanding is very important. Until unless you understand that what customer actually wants, or what business people has captured the requirement, what that requirement is saying, if you cannot understand that requirement, you are not going to work on that requirement. And the QA person job is to understand the requirement, and once they understand the requirement, from there from that point, their actual work gets start in the software development life cycle or the software testing life cycle. So whole work start from understanding the requirement. So to understand the requirement, you should ask the relevant question. You should know how to analyze it, how to understand it, so that you can start working. What work is there for a QA person? The QA person is to take the requirement, and they need to start with writing the test cases for that, or the test scenarios for that particular requirement. So if you need to write how to test something, you should first understand what is the requirement. So for that, the communication between the internal team, or if you are directly interacting with the client, that depends upon what kind of model is being followed in any organization. The communication is very important. So, okay, when I say communication is not only about speaking or writing, it's about how do you talk, how do you communicate, how do you frame your questions, queries, and how do you ask the relevant queries to the relevant people. Okay, so this is all include into the communication. Once you are, if you are, for example, you are discussing with the customer, you are the part of requirement gathering session, because on the agile process these days, everyone involves at every stages, right? The QA people, the developer, the business people, they all are sitting into the same meeting or the same conference, and where the customer is talking about the requirement, and everyone is giving their views and trying to absorb the requirement. So at that point of time, the communication is very important. You need to understand the requirement, what the customer is trying to say, and you need to ask the relevant questions, so that the customer requirement can also be briefed till such a manner where everyone can take the requirement and work on it. And because that is the first step, and that is the foremost and the most important steps for any of the department in the organization, whether it is a business team, whether it is the developer, whether it is the QA. If the requirement is not crystal clear, then definitely the chance of getting the error gets started from that very first point. So that is most important. Then the listening power is important again, because of the same reason. Until unless you listen well to the customer, or to the business people, or to the developer, you are not going to cover your points, you are not going to leverages your understanding onto that requirement. So the listening power should be there for tester. Creative thinking should be there, because you need to write the test cases, you need to execute the test cases. So you need to understand, you need to know, or you need to figure out all the possible scenarios, all the possible workflows around that requirement. For example, you are going to test the ordering process in any of the e-commerce applications. So in that, if you have the creative thinking, or you have uh, from your experiences also, because in the testing we are going to use our personal experience a lot, based upon the kind of application we are testing. Because if you, for example, if you're going to test the ordering process in any of the e-commerce application, you can correlate it with any kind of order you have done in past. So any process in or application or workflow can be correlated with our personal experiences, because our personal experiences is the user experience. And when we test from the users, keeping in our mind, then only we are going to get all the scenarios, and then only we are going to cover everything well. So that is why I said that we need to correlate it with our experience, because we were the user at the time we were using that application into our personal scenario. At the same time, when we are working, we are not thinking from the user point of view, because right now we are testing it as a QA person point of view, but that should not be there. Whenever you are testing something, you should test it from that mindset only. Like if you were using the application, or you are using the application, then what should be the flow? How should you use this application, and how you use the other application? That correlation is actually help you to perform the testing. So that is why the creative thinking should be there. You should have in your mind the direct scenarios. We have a question here. Does the tester responsible to know all the RD in detail and communicate with the clients? What are the RDs when you refer? Is it the requirement? I don't understand the RD. Can you explain more? Requirement document, to know all the requirement document. Okay, so See, there are phases into the software development lifecycle or software testing lifecycle, which is the requirement phase, and the requirement phase are different for based upon at what stage you are doing the requirement. Initially, the business team, the business analyst, they are more responsible for drafting the requirement into the document, or depend upon the work, the model in which you are doing the development. Suppose there are many models. One is waterfall. We will talk that later, but as it come here in the question, there are different models. If you are working or you are as per the organization, you work into the agile process, then in that step, yes, you are also the as a QA. Yes, right. So also you are also the part of the requirement document or requirement drafting, because the business analyst or the product owner, as you said, in terms of agile process, they are generally more termed as a product owner who has the responsibility to write the user stories. The requirement are basically named as user stories in the agile process. So they write the user stories, and then they write the requirement again in detail in those user stories. And the QA person, they are responsible for understanding the user stories, testing the criteria, and writing the acceptance criteria for that user story. So that is the quality analyst job into that role. Okay. So yes, they are responsible, but not solely responsible for writing the requirement. And when we say to know the requirement document, yes, because from the beginning in any process in these days, generally agile is followed, or the part of agile is being followed in the organization. So in that, the QA person is involved from the starting, so that they can give their inputs in the start only, and any bug or defect that is going to raise because of the misunderstanding in the requirement gathering is being resolved at the very first stage only. So they are and they should be the part of that requirement gathering and requirement documenting session. Okay. Okay. All right. Hope I answer this. So let's move on. Then one should have the logical and the analytical thinking as well, because these are the most important skills while doing the testing is needed at the first step. And then the other thing is the process that being followed that anyone can do if you learn it. But these are the things that you should build it and you should have it in you. And everyone has in their internal persona these things, but how much you use it depends upon how much you use these skills, is actually result into how good are you as a QA person. So if there are one QA who is doing good testing, and there is other QA is not performing that well, that is the reason why he is good and why the other is not that much good. Instead, in spite of being followed the same processes in the organizations, the same SOPs, the same methodology, the one is producing a good result, and one is not producing up to the mark results, because of all these skills that makes a person different from the other. Great. So we have understood the why of testing. We have understood the who can perform. We have understood the what is required as a basic, which makes different from you. That make you different from the others. Then let's understand the some terminologies like which is you will need to learn or need to hear a lot. So there are two terminologies. One is called project and one is called product. Okay. So there are generally two type of organizations. One is the service based organization, and other is the product based organizations or the companies. Right. Service based companies are generally the one who are providing any kind of services. I'm talking about into the software context only, software or the IT industry context only. So the service-based industry are generally those who are working onto the multiple projects on the multiple technologies and multiple kind of services that they are providing. So what they must be doing, they are taking the requirements from the different customer or different project, and then they are developing that project. They are writing the code, developer writing the code, QA are testing it, the designers are designing, and once they've been tested, completed, they've been delivered to the customer, and then they are either going to the maintenance where they are going to maintain the overall project. Once it is go live or the end user are using it, they can be go into the maintenance mode, or they can end the contract when the project is being live and run successfully. So that is called as project based organization or service based organization. So what is the core features for the service based organization? If I say this, service based organization or a project based organization, they have a target in front of them. They have a definite start date and the end date of a project, because they are taking the project from the client, and once gets that is started, they start working, building, developing it, and they deliver it. So definitely there is a defined date for that particular project to be delivered. So that is the basic flow for a service based organization. They are working on the multiple project, taking it, delivering it, then they are either maintaining it or not maintaining it on the customer behalf, depend upon the contract with the customer. So the product or the service based organization is they're developing the project. So what project has and what product has. So the project has a beginning and the start date. As I said, they are working onto this model only. They are the short term, because after once it is being developed, the project is either being to hand over to the customer, or it is being going into the maintenance where a different contract is being made, and then it becomes a maintenance project. And then they have a predictive planning here. Predictive planning, as in client comes with a mindset that they know what they need to develop. So they tell that to the company or to the business team. They refine it, and then they start building it. And once it is built, they give it to the client for the testing. Okay, so they know what they need to be required to be built upfront. They are not the kind of thing that they are going to create certain feature, then they are going to go into the market, launch it, then see the customer response, their feedback, then again going to come back and then rebuild, and then again add on some features, and again relaunch it to the market. They're not going come with that mindset and that cycle. So that is why they have a predefined set of features in their mind upfrontly. They plan it, they deliver it. Okay, one off delivery in a single go. We just deliver it, they test it, they approve it, and it goes into the market for the end users. They have their own set of requirements, and they have a defined deliveries or the features with a defined budget into their mind that needs to be built. So this is the kind of the attributes of a project that happen. The product based organization or a product is similar, definitely most of the times is opposite of what the project is. So there is no end date of for the product. So whenever the product based organization, they start with a vision that they need to develop something. To reach that something, they divide their goal into the shortcomings, short term goals. So they have a long lived feature team where they know where they want to reach with as a in the journey of a product, and then they plan a then into the small releases, and going into the market with the customer, taking the feedback, again working in the meantime parallelly working onto the other features, going to roll out them once they are ready. So that is how they do the iterative and planning. So that is why we are saying adaptive and the iterative plan. Please mute yourself.
Mhm.
Right, and there is an scope of continuous develop improvement, because this is the nature of a product based organization or of a product, that it learn by doing. Okay, they learn by doing. So they release themselves into the market, the customer uses them, they get the feedback, and then they again improve it by either improving the current existing feature or adding on the new additional features into the existing one. So that is how the continuous improvement process is being happen in the product. While the project, they come up with their own set of requirements that been built, developed, and then they're going to use it. That's it. Okay, and so these are the basic differences between a product and a project, and this is the because of the difference, there will be a different methodology is being used into the service based organization and product based organization. Generally the product based organization, they worked on to the agile methodology, because they worked into the smaller set of deliverables where they develop something, they release it, they test it, they move it to the customer, and then again they work on a different feature, and they have a long-term planning. And and then in the project base, they mostly they go into waterfall and agile also these days, and in, or maybe in a combination of both, where they deliver either into one go and or based upon the project duration or with the client need, they can go into the agile model also, where they break the deliveries into the different sprints. I'll explain later when we will see in detail what agile is, what are the different models of the software development. Then we will read all these things. But right now we are just trying to get familiar with the basic terminologies. So that is why we're using these terms. Okay. So this is the difference between the project and the product, or the service-based organization versus the product-based organization. Okay. If anyone have any questions, you can ask at this point. All right. So now you're going to see the software quality as a whole. What is software quality specifically, and what are the different layer, level, or the departments into the software quality in any of the organization, right? So generally the software quality is divided or segregated into the three main areas. The first area is called as quality assurance, which is the QA. The second area is called as quality control, which is QC. And third area is simply called as testing. Okay. So if you see the diagram here, we can understand they are basically the subset of one or the other. But generally, if you say the quality assurance comes at a bigger circle, which means that quality assurance are being developed or created or thought in the very first step. So what is the quality assurance department and what a Q department actually does? So when we talk about the testing or the QA, we generally divide it or understand it with one terminology in an organization. There is one department. Yes, there is one department, but within the department there are different verticals, which is divided into QA, QC, and testing. Now QA, QC, and testing can be a different teams, can be the same teams with a different roles responsibility. Now, what each of the department or each of the role does, the QA, the quality assurance department role is to define the quality. Okay. So, what the quality assurance people does, they actually create the processes that needs to be followed while doing the testing. Okay. Suppose my organization says that if you are doing testing, you need to record each of your test steps so that we can provide or record save that as an evidence at a central location. So there is a process of it. So for example, if I am doing the testing, I cannot just simply do it. If my organization's QA department SOPs, we call it SOP. Okay. Okay. So my if my process said that you, while doing the testing, you need to test the feature, you need to take the screenshot, you need to have some evidence which shows that yes it is working or no it is not working, and you need to capture that screenshot with the build version number in a particular folder of a particular project at a particular central location. So I should follow that process. Okay, so that everyone who is into the department following the same process, so it becomes generalized for everyone. And tomorrow if someone is coming for the quality check, they know that we follow this process, they will see the process and then go to the place where they can verify the process. Okay. So that is what the work of the quality assurance department. They are there to create the processes. They are there to create the processes that needs to be followed while doing the testing. So they create all those set of process and all those set of artifacts and or the documents which is required or the steps which needs to be followed for that particular process to execute. Now, the quality control department, what it does, the quality control, when we say, so these words itself says the definition. The assurance is the assure is if you are assuring someone that you are going to use the process. So the quality assurance department create the process, and then they need the assurance from the people who are going to use it that they are going to follow it. Then the quality control department. The quality control department, the QC department or the QC process is created, is set up to ensure that the processes that are being created into the QA are being followed into the testing. So this is the job of quality control department. You can say that if this is if we talk about our Indian constitution or any constitution, any of the country constitution, then the rules are being created by the constitution. Okay, then there are people who are there to ensure that rules are being followed. We call them the cops. Okay, so the cops are there to ensure that the people of that constitution of that country, they follow the rule which has been created by the constitution. Okay, so exactly the same rule follows here in the software quality industry. The quality control people are there to ensure that the people who are doing the testing, they follow the rules or the process which is being created into the quality assurance department. They are exactly connected in a similar fashion. So the QC people, they are actually going to go onto the place. Suppose if I take my previous example, if it is written that if while doing the testing you need to take the screenshot of each step and and save that record as an save that record as an evidence to prove to show that we have tested this and this was the result earlier, now this is the result. And you need to keep it in your project folder in the central location which is being created by the organization for all the projects to keep all their testing records. So if you are you actually doing that or not, this is the QC department work to test and do. So this is the work of quality control department. They go and actually verify whether the processes are being following correctly or not. Now they are not going to test each and every steps for every project. They do it on a randomly basis. So there are the internal audits which is being set on a quarterly basis or monthly basis where these activities are being performed. And if there are any discrepancy found that someone is not following, someone is not doing that, then they have to do the entire the root cause analysis, and then they have to submit their report that why you're not following this, and that comes as a performance check for them, and that eventually reduce their ratings, and that ratings eventually connected to their performance appraisals, and that actually connected with their appraisals and their promotions. So this is how it all being connected, tested, and qualified. This is again the similar thing which we saw. If you are not following something, there are people who are going to check it, and there are processes against it also, so that you get the required punishment if you are not following it. So this is how they are connected, built, followed, and verified. This is very important because one should know the difference between the quality assurance, quality control, and the testing. Hope I'm able to explain. Any questions at this point? Can you mute everyone? Okay. Uh, I can see most of the people are on mute. And still now. Okay. All right. So let's move forward. This is some basics I have written, whatever I have explained onto the QA, QC, and testing. This is very well connected with the thought I have explained, so we can read it later and can understand it. There is nothing much to read. It's just written that what is the purpose of each process, what is the focus, what we are doing, who is doing it, and when we doing it. Okay, so in all three, QA, QC, and testing, we have divided into these attributes, and each attribute says what is the purpose of QA, what is the purpose of QC, what is the purpose of testing, what is the focus. So if you say in QA, the focus is on creating the processes, managing the processes. In QC, the product, the focus is the product as a whole, if you are following that particular thing in your product or in the project or not. Testing is mainly focused definitely on the testing. We are focusing on to the source code testing and the designing and creating and testing those features. Okay, so this is the this is, I'm not going to read it because that what I have explained is automatically written over here. I will share the slides, and you guys can later read on more onto this. Okay, so with this, we understood the initial concept of why testing, what, who can perform the testing, what is needed to do the testing, then what type of organizations are there in which the testing performs. So there are project based and the product based, and why we need to understand different type of organization, because there are different thought process for the QA or for the testing. So that is why you need to understand what different type of organizations are there in the market, in the industry. Then we need to understand what is happen as a whole in the software quality department. What QA create, what QC do, what tester do, and what are the replication, what are the implication of each of the steps in the processes, so that when we perform our job, what happened initially. If you see as a career wise also, initially when the QA or a person who is into the organization, they comes into this position in the QA, in the testing position, where you actually work in the team. You are at the grassroots level, if I say. Then once you work in this step, maybe 2 year, 3 years, 4 year, 5 years, 6 year down the line, you start getting the responsibility of QC department, the quality control, where now you are equipped enough with the process by following the set of processes which are being created in the QA. You are doing it. You are doing the testing. You are in the project to project. You are done for the multiple projects into the same organization, or into the different organization or different domains. Now you are very well equipped to know that how you can ask someone or guide someone or train someone to follow those processes, or then retest or reevaluate their performance or evaluate their performance. Then you moved into the quality control department, and once you are work here in QC for again 2, 3, 4, 5 years, depends upon the organization, depends upon your availability, then you are being actually promoted in your journey to the quality assurance department. In the quality assurance department, then you work as an QA consultant, or any other profile where you actually lead the team, or the QA lead or the QA manager, where you actually lead the team and ensure that the processes are being followed. Then you worked as a QA lead, QA team member, or the consultant, QA consultant. Then you actually moved into the quality assurance department, where now you are good, have the good knowledge of following the processes at the grassroots level. You have good knowledge of controlling the processes, or controlling the process at the mid level. Then you move to the top level, where you actually define the processes. Okay, when you define the processes based upon the different organization, nature of the business, the location, there are many other factors which are there. So you move into the top position, where you work as an auditors, or work as an external auditors, or work as an independent consultant for the organizations, and you give the trainings, you create the processes, and to these people. Okay, the quality control people. So this is how you actually move. Is a perfect example of the ladder also in your career, that how you move upwards to the organization. I think we have some question. Okay. Would you mention some of the interview question that would be asked in each of your subtopic? Okay, we will do that, and we used to do that while going on through the sessions. Right now, it's our first session today, so we are just discussing as a whole. So we will just keep adding that. But yeah, we can add it onto the slides also. Thank you for that. Right. So this is done. With now with all this, we are eligible enough to understand what the testing is. So we have talked about the quality. We have talked about the different terminologies. We have talked about the project, product. We have talked about what is QA, QC testing. Okay. So with this, we are now good to go with the testing definition, which says that testing is a process. If I read it, testing is a process to check the system in order to ensure the quality. Okay, so few terms which is important here is the process is to ensure and the quality. So there are three keywords which you actually focus on. One is the process, one is the insurance, and the other is the quality. Okay. See, if we are very optimistic, we can say that you cannot test any system with 100% bug free. Okay, or there should be, and there will be the issues there in the system. But if you are following the processes, if you are ensuring that you are following the processes, and you are maintaining the quality, then you can at least reach to the level where you can say that yes, it's not 100% tested, but we have the 95% proximity, or we have the 96, 97% proximity that yes, this product as a whole, the system as a whole is good enough to go into the market and use as an end user, as a customer. Because if the end user found something, then it becomes the failure, that count as a failure of the system, and that becomes a very big hurdle in the growth of any customer, any product, anything. So that is why the testing is that gate opener, where it actually open the system for the entire world. So that is why the importance of the testing is very much, and it should be done in strict. And if you see in any of the organization, it always follow in a very strict and disciplined manner, because this is a very serious stage. Developer develop the application, but might be they are not, and they in many of the scenario are not too serious or too emotional with the application, because they know that there is additional layer through which their work is going to go. But when it goes by testing, in the testing or via the testing, or cross that barrier of testing, then there is no layer. So that is why the quality processes, they are so important in this department, because after this it is going to open for the end user, for the customer, and there are the multiple security issues are there if there we found any threat. And then depends upon the domain or the industry for which we are checking the project or the product, or working or testing it, it becomes more critical. For example, if you're going to work or you work in the defense, or any kind of application which has been created for the country defense academy, or defense related issues, or any thing which is related to direct to the country security, safety, then it becomes most critical. And the processes that needs to be followed there, and the quality requirement is very high, so that becomes most critical. Then if you work onto the financial domain, then it is there you are dealing with the customer's money, you are dealing with the customer's savings. It becomes very important to have the right set of process. Suppose an application who actually handle the customer's money, for example any of the banking application, then there should not be a chances of any error, because it's very 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 critical data. Okay, so it depends upon the domain you are working, the quality raises their work bar in terms of processes and the testing. So that is why in this stage, the the work the words process, insurance, assurance, and the quality becomes the top priority. Okay. So again, when we are doing testing, we have the responsibility and we are responsible for ensuring the quality of any system. Okay, it's nothing to be nothing to be remembered. You are just need to understand it, that why we are doing the testing. We are doing the testing because we want to check whether you are perfect or not. And if you are, how we ensure that, we try to test most of your attributes, most of your quality. We will ensure that yes, if you say so, you follow that thing. And if we are able to do that, we can be we can be trust we can trust on you. So for to check that, we need to ensure that we have checked most of your attributes. So that is what the testing is all about. You need to check most of the projects or the products attribute to ensure that we are confident enough to say that yes, the product is good to use. Okay. All right. How it started. So here we are saying how the particular project or the journey of a product or project is being started in an organization, from where it start. Okay, so so it start with a very first step where the customer or the business team is actually talk to the customer for the very first time, and they do a pitch for their work, which is called the project bidding. At this stage, the business development team in the organization, they actually connect with the customer. It can be the existing client or it can be a new prospect, or if they can reach to the organization or the business development team. The business development team are the one who actually work at the sales level, and they are going to get the projects or the product or the business to the organization. Okay, so they are going to pitch for the projects, and they are going to take they are the one who is going to take the requirement at the very basic level and at the very first stage. So they are the front facing of the organization who talk to the customer for the very first level. They represent the organization, and they introduce the organizations and organizations behavior to the client to ensure the client that they are in the right hands, and then uh, to win their confidence and ultimately their project or their work. Okay, so this it's all started from there. Once that is done, so during that phase, there may be the requirement of the technical people, the quality people, to get involved into the business development phase if required, and so that they can assure the customer that sometimes the customer have any technical queries, they have some security related issues, so the quality teams comes into the picture, and then they all um, have a call with the client, or maybe the meetings if it is face to face, and then those sessions happens, the workshop happens, and then the project finally comes into the organization. Okay, so this is the stage where the work get introduced to the organization. Then once it is done at the customer level, then it comes in the internal level where the business development team have the kickoff meeting or the kind of introduction meeting along with the client and to the internal team. So they uh, decided like who is going to work onto the project, what would be the project nature, what should be the team internally, and then they gonna get onto the kickoff call with the client to introduce who is going to manage your project, who is the one who is going to work on your project, and to the other people as well, the key people, the key stakeholders of the project or the company. That happens, and once that happens, then this is the formal informal step, which is called the PIN, project initiation notes. So in this, everything is going to be written, like who is going to work, what is the project, what is the basic scope, and what set of team is required or the resources are required to work on this. Maybe it can be a mobile application, it can be a web-based application, so it can be only a designing project, it can be only the infrastructure related project. Based upon that, the resources need are being identified, or at the high level, and then it is being sent to the topmost authority to get the approval to get started with the project. So that is being signed or being internally approved over the emails, and that is the point from where we get the assurance, or we get the permission to get started with the project internally. So that is how the starting point of the project. After this step, so this is the first step, which is called the project initiation in the software development life cycle. So now we are getting introduced into the life cycle of a software, of building of software, of testing a software, of releasing a software or an application. So that is a very famous terminology, very common and still very important, known as the software development life cycle. Okay, so we started with the software development life cycle here. This is the life cycle of building, managing, maintaining of any software, testing of any software, which is that is why it is called as software development life cycle. This is being followed into the related to the software industry. Okay. Similarly, we have the software testing life cycle. Okay. Software testing life cycle is only applicable to the testing and the QA processes that is being followed and used by the people who who work into the QA department. And the software development life cycle is followed by all the resources who is going to work
Oh,
on the project in the different departments. Okay, I have explained the first step of this process, which is called the project initiation. There are many other stages into the software development life cycle, such as the requirement gathering, system designing, system development, system testing, and then delivery and the maintenance. Okay, so these are the different phases, and in these phases are being performed in different models, which is called the methodology, software methodology, while developing or managing or working into a particular project. Okay, the methodology can be waterfall, agile, V model, prototype model. There are many more methodology, and that is a huge topic which is going to be understood. Even soft SDLC is also a huge topic which is going to covered in different sessions. So that is why I am not unfolding it right now. I just explain one as a project initiation, and we'll be stopping today here only in terms of the class. Okay, and these each session has their own importance, own method. There are certain processes, there are certain documentation needs to be created. So all these will come on to the later stage. Now anyone if of you have any question, I we already have one question which says, who is participating in the bidding process? Is the tester be a part of bidding? Generally not, but if we say not the tester, whenever we will talk, we will talk about as a whole QA department. So yes, as I said, if there is a requirement from the client end to have certain concerns related to the quality or related to the security, comes into the which comes into that QA department, then they call the QA people in the bidding to support that activity. Yes, you can get that. You'll just can get it, the presentation and both the recording will get it. The Rahul will get it for you. Okay, great. Now I hope all of you have this syllabus as well. You have this copy, maybe you they must have shared with you. This is the course curriculum, that what we are going to cover into this class, into this course. Where okay, don't have it, no problem. I'll share the course content as well. I'll just going to go through it for a minute here, so that you guys will have an idea. And after that, I'll just ask the Rahul also to share this. So we'll get it into the place where you have the enroll for the course. There is a section where you can download these things, the PPT, the recording also. Okay, I'm going to unshare my screen for a minute. I'm just checking I stuck. Okay, so this is the curriculum that we are going to follow into this class or into this course. Okay, this is a basic course objective and everything that you can read later. And what we are going to learn as a tool, I have just mentioned the list of the things that you are going to learn as an attributes or as a tool here. So there are certain things in SDLC methodology. We are going to talk about the waterfall, agile, scrum. In terms of the testing defect management tool or the bug tracking tool, I'm going to show you Bugzilla and one or two more from here. Then in case of test writing, I'm going to show how to write it into the manually as well into the Excel. Then in any of the software like Zira also we will touch here. So in the test real testing, how we're going to use the other tools to write the test cases. Then I will give you the exposure to the project management tools like that those projects are being managed into the project management tool. There are certain famous project management tools are being used into the organization. So we're going to use that. Then we're going to learn on to the test documentation part, which is like the RTM, BRS, FRS, test plan, impact analysis, risk analysis, and then BRN, all these documentation related things we are going to learn how to create it, when to create it. And then there are other things like API testing using the basics of API testing using the Postman tool, how manually we can test the APIs. We will learn that. Mobile application, how to test the mobile application that we will learn. And obviously, various testing types or we are going to learn as a part of the basics levels. And then we are going to learn the database and the basics of SQL queries, a bit of SQL queries, not much in detail, and then how you can test the database manually. Okay, so that is we are going to cover the software called Workbench here. From there, we are going to see what is database, what are the tables, how you can create the tables, what are the primary key, function, foreign key, what are their connections, how you can create a database, how you can actually run the queries, SQL queries in the database to test them. Okay, and what needs to be tested in the database as a manual tester initially before the start of the project or during the project. So all these things you're gonna work into the database. Then documentation skills, as we work, we will learn all these things like how to work onto MS Word, Excel, some mind mapping tool is there, and some MS project and the test plan, how to create it that we will learn. And then the soft skill in the last where I'll give you session on to how to write good emails, the team communication, what needs to be done, how to communicate with the client and everything. And these are the modules we are going to cover as we discussed started with the module one, which is called the introduction to a testing. We're gonna read and work, understand more onto this. Then we're gonna understand and work onto the SDLC and STLC, which is software development lifecycle and software testing lifecycle in detail. During this, we are going to work on an actual project. We will see the projects. We are gonna create all these documents and see how they flow into the organization, how they manage, maintained. So we are going to do that entirely. We're gonna live this journey together along with learning as well as doing. Okay, and so we are going to create the requirement, we are going to write the requirement, we are going to write create the prototype, the design from the different tools which is actually happen in the organization that we are going to do. And then similarly we are going to live the software testing lifecycle where in each phase we are going to create all the necessarily document or the process. For example, in test planning document we will be creating the test plan, we will learn how to create a test plan. What is the test plan? Obviously first we are going to read it, understand it, then create it. Then again same in the test case development, then the test execution where we're going to test it. So all these things we are going to learn. Then we will learn about the different methodology, waterfall, iterative, agile, and all. Then we are going to learn different type of testing, what is unit testing, how to do it, how, what is system integration testing, what is functional regression, retesting, acceptance testing, smoke, sanity, performance, all these we're going to learn into this core component. Then different methodology, what is white box, black box, what are different functional testing, we're going to learn more what is the functional and non-functional testing. We're going to see and learn here how to do it, when to do it. Everything is covered into this phase which call the testing methodologies. Then the testing tool and techniques, we are going to write the test plan in detail, which we're going to understand what is test plan, what all things are covered in the test plan, and what is the entry and exit criteria, how to manage the test plan, then test case designing, how to write the test case, how to write test scenarios, how to create the agile test case, what is user story, what is requirement, what is scrum, what is sprint, all these things we are going to learn here. For the Agile and Jira, we will have a separate session in detail in this module where we are going to learn Jira entirely because Jira is very important tool, and we are going to learn the Agile as a separate class because Agile is very important. So we will have a separate session onto the Agile and Jira. Then this is complete the entire software testing lifecycle, test execution, how to execute it, what is test closer, how, when to submit the report, and then what are the different documentation which is being created into the process. Then we will learn, as I say, the APIs. We will understand what is API, and we will understand the API using the Postman, how to manually test the APIs that we will cover. So we will give the knowledge of Postman tool here and testing the API using the Postman. And then we will learn onto the database, how to create the database. We will work onto the MySQL database here using the Workbench tool. So we'll understand how to create the database and everything, how to test the database here in this step. Then project management tool I've already covered. We will see where in the relevant place how to use that, and then some of the documentation skills, and then some of the soft skills. Okay. So this will be the curriculum that we are going to follow into this. We are going to read each and everything in detail. We are going to understand everything in detail. So I'll share this with you guys also. You will have it. Right. So that is it from this session for now. Thank you everyone for joining this. And you will get the link from Rahul. You will get the link for this presentation, the recording, as well as the curriculum. Okay. All right. So thank you everyone. Yeah. Have a good day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.